Hey guys, I did record me talking, but honestly I was doing my own head in because I just wasn't making any sense. So this is DC Fix. I actually got it from B&M's, but you can't get it from any hardware store. And you can get it from like B&M's, B&Q, Homebase, etc. So I'm just basically showing you how to apply it to, your worktop. So what I'm doing here is I'm overlapping. I will always keep an overlap at the top because you never know what's going to go wrong and you want no clean edges. Now obviously the ladder got in the way and I was explaining I'm going to put it under the bunker. So under the worktop. So then you can get a clean finish. So what I'm going to do at this point, it does give you cutting guides. So I'm going to cut it along, say where exactly where that arrow is. So that's where I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to cut it straight along. So I'm doing that just now. Now, if this is your first time, I think this is my second time. Yeah, this is my second time actually by doing DC Fix and vinyl wrapping, and you want to have a lot of patience because honestly, it is an absolute nightmare if you don't have patience. I remember the first time I done it, I actually fell out with myself. So yeah, so make sure that when you're cutting that you take your time, and that you have taken the right measurements because honestly, if you haven't, then you're going to be cutting and then you're going to realise it's too small. Hence why I always leave overlaps. So with this, it really is easy. If you take your time, if you don't have patience, it is the worst thing to do. So make sure that you've definitely got patience. So I was just figuring out here, like, what way I wanted to have it. Luckily, I did cut it long enough that I could actually make my decision, and I'm glad. I think that was generally a fluke, um, because I was looking at I ended up actually looking at the other bit that was going to go in my longer worktop, and the grain went the other way. So it would have looked odd if I had put it that way. So yeah, so I just double checked and wanted to make sure. This is when I realised I had to go the other way so then it matched my other worktops because it would generally just look stupid. So I'm just showing you that, overlapping and how to take the back off. Now, when I take the back off, please take it off slowly and try and honestly not fold it over on itself because if that sticks to itself, oh my god, that is a nightmare to get off. And believe me, you'll want to throw it out the window. So I'm just peeling it off slowly. And at one point, I think I used my mouth to hold the middle. Yep, there we go. So I'm basically using my mouth to hold the middle and to peel it down. You only peel it halfway down though. Well, no, not even halfway down, like a quarter way down. So because you're going to pull it while applying. Now I got the DC Fix tools from B&M. You will get the DC Fix tools as well when you're going to buy wrap vinyl. Definitely get them because honestly they're so handy. Now as you can see I am overlapping that. So I am putting it up the board a bit just so I've got that extra playroom as well. Make sure as well that it is straight because there'll be nothing worse than you putting your DC Fix down or your vinyl, no matter what colour it is. I think if it's not got a grain, it wouldn't be so bad, but if it does have a pattern, make sure that it is straight because that would be a nightmare. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm using the tool that you get with it. It's like a spatula sort of thing, it's got a soft side and it's also got a hard side. I use the hard side for cutting and for edging just like that, and I use the soft side for getting any bubbles out. Now, as you can see, because I only took a little bit off, the backing, it has stuck, but while I pull that, I actually start using the tool to then start making sure that there's no bubbles. So that's what I do. If you do get bubbles, don't worry, you can also get that out with a hairdryer and you'll see what I do that way. I don't use a heat gun because honestly, I don't think there's any point in using a heat gun. I'll always use a hairdryer. But you will see that at the end and you will see why. So I'm just pulling slowly and, pushing firmly towards myself and making sure that I don't get any bubbles at all. I was really lucky this time, I didn't. So, but if you do, you could peel it back and then redo it. And that was my ugly mug there. Sorry, I don't look very appealing, but you know, I'm doing a 4-bedroom house reno myself. So yeah, just keep pulling, keep pushing down. And make sure you get into the edges, you know, because you're wanting to definitely get into the edges as well. So keep doing that. Let's speed this up. Oh, no need to. Do we need to? No, we don't need to. Right, so what I'm doing is, because obviously they're going to go at the sides, because I don't like these silver things. For the dear Lord, I've actually forgot what they're called. But I don't like them. So what I'm doing is I'm going to cover them so it doesn't look so nasty. A lot of people cut round them, and that's okay, you could totally cut round them, but I like to cover them. So I'm just pulling it down, starting from the middle, to make sure that it is firmly in. I don't even know what I was looking at there, it was just being by myself. So I'm just making sure that it's firmly in. And what I'm also going to do is, see that corner that you can see? I'm going to cut up that, and you'll see how I cut. So yeah, so I'm pushing it firmly in, and then I'm also going to use the hairdryer on that bit to lock it in, and you'll see how and why. That edging bit's really, really good, you know, for getting anything out at all. Like if you've got any badness, or you know, any bubbles, it's really, really good. So this is the little tool that you get with it. Now what I'm doing is, you can't see me because my big fat head's in the way, but I'm actually cutting it. Now I'm cutting it at an angle up the way, so you cut it away from like where you're going to cut it. Sorry, where it's going to end, because then you're going to get an overlap like that, so it's so much easier, and plus then you'll be able to cover a lot of stuff. You don't want to cut towards it, like if you were cutting, you know, in the way, don't cut in the way. And I think that's what I was explaining, you know, don't cut in the way, because then you're going to lose something, and you probably will end up seeing something. Believe me, I learnt that in the first time that I done it. So let's just speed this up, because it's taking far too long, and I'm just making sure that it's all in fixed place, and like you're going to do as well. Now this is the part where I got to, you know, cut, and as I said, cut away from it. So if you see me here, I'm cutting up the way, and that's so much easier and so much better, and it sticks better as well. So yeah, so I'll cut up the way, not down, like not across the other way. Cut away from it, not into it. That's it. Right, so at this point I sped it up, and I just cut off the excess, you know, because I didn't need all that hanging. Obviously that was due to the fact that I didn't know that I was going to have it the wrong way around. But I'm just going to pull this open. Now I've pulled the drawer open. You could remove the drawer if it's easier for yourself, but I'm just pulling the drawer open, and I'm making sure that that's getting put in place. Now you want to go under the drawer, so it actually looks like, you know, that it is a worktop, and not just some vinyl, because there's nothing worse than walking into a house and you know it's vinyl straight away. You want it to look really, really nice, and finished. So I always pull both sides of a corner, you know, so it's, and what you'll be able to see here is how I cut it. Now, am I showing you? Oh, my arm's in the way. Right, so wait now. Why I was in the way, I do not know. So I'm just basically cutting it down the way. Don't worry, I will get that fixed. I definitely have shown it in the sink one, which is coming up anyway. But I'm just cutting it down a bit so then I could get into there. Now you can see that obviously that's it. So you see I've just cut it a little bit, and I'm trying to make it a point so it's easier. It's just basically so it folds in on itself. Now I think at this point I was cutting, yeah, there we go. Now you can see what I'm doing. So then it folds in on itself. Now it will double up, but don't worry, you're going to cut that away anyway. So you can see that I'm hitting, you know, the white bit at the bottom underneath. So what I'm going to do is I am going to cut that out once I fiddled about with that. Didn't actually realise that I was fiddling that much with it. Honestly, you really don't have to. But I'm very pernickety. So I like my things done right. So yeah, so here I go, and I'm going to cut, oh, I'm cutting the excess away first. So then it joins together. So I'm actually waiting to explain to you how I cut the little bit underneath the lip. Because there's a lip underneath there, obviously, you know, that's getting in the way, that wee bit there. So I need to cut away at that, and that's what I use this tool for. So I'm going to show you how to use the tool and how to cut away any excess. And this is a really, really good idea. So what I do is I actually push in, you know, I went freehand here. You don't have to go freehand. What I could also suggest is if you hold the tool against it and you put the crafting knife with it, then it's going to come up as well. But I went freehand here. Obviously I'm showing off. And there you go. So that's the excess away on that side. But I'm still going to use the hairdryer on it, and you'll see why. And that's just basically to get it into place. Secures it, which is great. Now, I'm getting bored of myself here, so I think I'm going to skip and get to the front bit of the drawer. Right, so that was it sped up, and thank God, to be honest with you, because I couldn't look at it anymore. But here I am. So what I done was I cut the side bit to the other side first, and I'll show you what I do on this side, and then I started folding it under. Now, you can see there that I'm making sure that there's no bubbles at all, because you're still wanting to make sure that it looks nice underneath, as well as, you know, getting it tight. So I cut away the excess underneath because it's hitting like the back bit. So I cut that away, and then I also cut around the white bit right there. So I'm removing underneath, as I said. So let's remove underneath, and then you'll see that I cut around that white bit. So then it's not stopping anything from, you know, getting in the way, or, you know, stopping me from getting everything underneath. Plus it gives you a clean finish as well. Now I think that I went onto the hairdryer at this part. I'm just making sure obviously my edges are okay, but the hairdryer fixes that as well. As I said, you could use a heat gun. Me personally, I don't use a heat gun because a hairdryer does the exact same thing, and I really don't want to spend my money on a heat gun. Not if it's... So this is where I show you that, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm actually using the edge of the tool, placing the craft knife on top of it and going right along that back edge. So it gives that nice finished clean line. Because, you know, it's okay doing it underneath, but we want to have that crisp finish. Now I just freshly painted that backboard because it was black. It was the same colour as the bunkers. The bunkers were black. And honestly, I think I peeled some of the paint off on the other ones, but I managed to fill it back in, so it was not so bad. So that's it removed. And that's basically how that looks just now. Now you can see that actually I did peel some of the paint off the back, but I did freshen that up. So that's that done. It's nice and smooth. Now I'm going to show you the hairdryer trick. So this is the hairdryer trick, as you can see. So all you need to do is put it on a high heat. Now I've got a GHD hairdryer. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. It could be from the pound shop. It really doesn't matter. As long as you've got some heat, believe me, it works. So what I do is I put it on a high heat, and as you can see, it actually bubbles. But what it does is it stretches and it heats up, and it heats up the glue, which makes it stick better, and it gets right in to the creases, so it ends up coming a point where it generally looks like it's seamless, which I absolutely love. So that's what I do around my edges, and I just double check and make sure that I get right in there, and make sure that it's all sealed. So let's fast forward that bit, because I explained it better on the recording that here, rather than in the, you couldn't even hear me anyway, to be honest with you, because of the hairdryer, but I explained it better here rather than on there. So I've sped up this part because honestly it was taking so long. I am very, very panicky, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I want to make sure that all my joins were good, and they were all sealed and not moving basically. So I always do my corners, the side bits, because that's where a lot of it peels off. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I don't know what I was explaining here. Let's have a look and go back. Would be my, how many times have I done this? I think I've done this like maybe 3 times. Yeah, I think I've done it. This is my 3rd time. But the more you do it, the easier it gets, so yeah. And that's why I use my hairdryer set, because it helps fix. And you get right under the edges. So I'll show you that just now actually. You get right under the edges. You're doing the hairdryer trick. Pick up. Paint off, but yeah. And then what I'll do is, I'll get a bit of silicone or something white, run it along there, and that's it done and sealed. And you've went from black bunkers to wooden ones. So I'll show you the finished result. In fact, I'll show you the sink, and I'll show you the finished result.